He grabbed her by the collar and slammed her into the equipment rack hard enough to knock steel down around her boots. 40 operators froze. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. "Nobody trains my men but me," Senior Chief Ryan Mitchell said, his fist still twisted in her uniform. "Now walk off my field before I carry you off it." Captain Emily Carter didn't struggle, didn't blink. She just looked down at the hand holding her, then back up at him, calm as a loaded weapon. "I warned you," she said. "I always warn people, once." He had no idea he'd already lost. Subscribe, stay with this story to the very end, and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story travels. The wind came off the Pacific and rolled inland across the training field at Camp Pendleton, with the kind of cold that gets into a man's joints and reminds him how old he is. 40 operators stood in formation, and none of them shivered, because shivering was a confession, and none of these men confessed to anything. Emily Carter bent down and picked up the two halves of the roster. She did it slowly, not because she was hurt, because she wanted every single one of them to watch her do it. She straightened, folded the two pieces together, matched the torn edges, and slid them into the breast pocket of her uniform. Then she looked up at Ryan Mitchell. "That was the only copy the command sent down," she said. "But I've got it memorized. Would you like me to start with your name, Senior Chief, or should I go alphabetically?" A sound moved through the formation. Not laughter. Something smaller and more dangerous. The sound men make when they realize the show they came to watch might not have the ending they paid for. Ryan's jaw shifted. "You think this is funny?" "I think it's Tuesday," Emily said. "You know who I am?" "Ryan Mitchell, Senior Chief, 19 years. 4 deployments you can talk about and 2 you can't. You've buried 11 men and you've written 11 letters, and you rewrite the first paragraph every time because you never think you got it right." She let that sit exactly 1 second. "Yes, Senior Chief, I know who you are." Something flickered behind his eyes. It was gone almost before it arrived, but it had been there and she'd seen it. "Somebody gave you a file," he said. "Somebody gave me a job. Same thing. You read a file and you think you know a man." He took a step closer. He was 6'2" and built like a door, and he used that the way he'd used it for 19 years, the way it had always worked. "Let me tell you what I know about you, Captain. I know you're 29. I know you've got a Marine Corps combat instructor certification that somebody in an air-conditioned office decided qualifies you to teach men who have kicked in doors in places that don't show up on maps. I know the Corps needed a photograph and you had the right face for it. That's a lot of knowing for a man who hasn't asked me a single question," Emily said. "I don't need to ask." "No," she agreed. "You never do. That's the part I'm here to fix." The formation didn't move, but something in it leaned. 40 men, and every one of them felt the ground tilt a half degree, and not one of them could have told you why. Ryan smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Fix," he repeated. "You hear that, gentlemen? We're broken." "Not yet," Emily said. That landed. She watched it land. She watched it go into him like a splinter, small enough to ignore, deep enough to fester. A voice from the second rank. "Ma'am, permission to ask a question." "Granted." "What did you do?" She turned toward the voice. He was young, maybe 24, sandy hair, cut down to nothing, the kind of kid who still believed the world made sense if you were strong enough. His name tape read Kowalski. "What did I do?" Emily repeated. "Yes, ma'am. Everybody in this formation, you say a name, we know the story. Senior Chief, we know. Petty Officer Reyes, we know. Everybody's got a story that's been told 100 times in 100 bars." He shrugged. "Nobody's ever told yours. Nobody's heard it. So what did you do?" Emily was quiet for a moment. "Nothing you'd believe," she said. "Try me, ma'am." "No," Kowalski blinked. "No?" "Kowalski, if I tell you a story right now, you'll do exactly one thing with it. You'll decide whether it's good enough. You'll measure it against the stories you've heard in those bars, and you'll come to a conclusion about whether I've earned the right to stand here. And then whether the answer is yes or no, you'll have learned absolutely nothing." She let her eyes move across the formation unhurried, taking them one at a time. "You don't get my story, you get my hands. If my hands aren't enough, then the story wouldn't have helped." Somebody near the back said very quietly, "Damn." Ryan heard it. His face didn't change, but his shoulders did a fractional rise the way a man's shoulders rise when he feels a room start to move without his permission. "Formation," he said. "Fall out. Gear up. We start at 08. Belay that. 2 words. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. 40 men who had already begun to turn, stopped turning, and stood there caught between 2 orders, and every one of them understood in that instant that something had just gone very wrong with the chain of command. Ryan turned around slowly. "Say that again," he said. "Belay that," Emily said. "This unit was placed under my instruction at 06 this morning by written order of Rear Admiral Halloran. That order was in the roster, which you tore in half." She patted her breast pocket. "But like I said, I've got it memorized." The silence had weight now. It pressed down on the field. Ryan's voice dropped. "Halloran signed my orders too." "Then you know what they say." "They say I've got a mission in 14 days and 40 men who have to come back from it." "That's exactly what they say," Emily said. "And that's exactly why I'm standing here. Because right now, Senior Chief, some of these men aren't coming back, and you already know which ones." That did it. Ryan crossed the ground between them in 3 steps, and he was close enough that she could feel the heat coming off him, and every man in that formation stopped pretending they weren't watching. "Say that one more time," he said. His voice had gone very soft. "Say that to me one more time." Emily didn't step back. "Petty Officer Reyes," she said. "Left knee. He rolled it in Coronado 18 months ago, and he never reported it because he thought you'd cut him. He compensates on stairs. He compensates on rope. Under fire at night with 60 pounds on his back. That compensation is going to put his weight in the wrong place at the wrong second, and you're going to write letter number 12. Ryan didn't move. "Petty Officer Dunn," she went on, "hearing, right here. He passed his last exam because Corpsman Riley likes him, and Corpsman Riley is a decent man who made an indecent choice. Dunn hears you fine on a range. Dunn is not going to hear you in a stairwell with suppressed fire going, and that's letter 13. "Stop," Ryan said. "Kowalski," Emily said. "Kowalski's the worst of them, and he's the only one who's perfectly healthy." Kowalski's head came up. "Because Kowalski loves you," Emily said. "Kowalski thinks you're the reason gravity works. And on the day it goes bad, Kowalski is not going to think he's going to look at you, and he's going to wait for you to tell him what to do. And there is going to be a half second where you can't because you're busy because you're a man and not a gum, and that half second is letter 14. She finally let something into her voice. "You've got 3 men bleeding out in slow motion in your own formation, Senior Chief, and you didn't tear that roster because it insulted you. You tore it because you were scared somebody outside your house could see inside it." Nobody breathed. Ryan Mitchell stood there in the cold with 40 men watching, and his hands opened and closed once at his sides. "Who told you that?" he said. "Nobody told me." "Somebody told you." "Nobody told me, Senior Chief. I watched you march this formation across 200 yards of blacktop, and I watched Reyes take the curb with his right foot every single time. And I watched Dunn's eyes go to your mouth when you gave the count, and I watched Kowalski watch you." Emily shrugged. "I've been on this base for 90 minutes. That's not a file. That's not politics. That's the job." The wind came again, and nobody felt it. And then Ryan Mitchell laughed. It was an ugly laugh, and it was real, and that made it worse. "That's a hell of a magic trick," and he said, "real nice. You come out here, you read us like a deck of cards, everybody's impressed, everybody claps." He turned and swept his arm across the formation. "Gentlemen, give the captain a hand." Nobody clapped. The silence stretched, and Ryan's arm was still up, and slowly he understood that no one was going to give him what he'd asked for, and slowly his arm came down. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay." "Senior Chief," Emily said. Don't what? Don't do the thing you're about to do. You don't know what I'm about to do." "You're going to ask me to prove it on the mat," Emily said, "because that's the only currency you trust. And I'm telling you right now in front of your men, and I want them to hear this so they remember it later, don't." Ryan smiled again. "Why not?" "Because you'll lose," Emily said, "and because I don't think you'll survive losing in front of them." 40 men made a sound like a held breath being let go all at once. Ryan's smile stayed exactly where it was. That was the tell. A real smile moves. "Reyes," he said, "get the mats." "Senior Chief, get the mats, Reyes." Reyes moved. He moved on that bad left knee, and Emily watched him move, and Ryan watched her watch him, and something in his face went hard and old. "Captain," Ryan said, "you warned me. I heard you. Everybody heard you." He began unbuttoning his sleeve cuffs methodically, one and then the other. "Now here's my warning. I've been doing this since you were in the 7th grade. I have put men through walls. I have never once, not one time, lost on a mat to anybody who didn't outweigh me by 40 pounds. I don't fight angry. I don't fight fast. I fight until the other person stops. He rolled the first sleeve. If you want to take a knee right now, walk off this field and tell Halloran we had a disagreement, I will back you up. I'll say it was my fault. That offer expires in 10 seconds. Emily looked at him. Senior Chief, she said, may I ask you something? Ask. Reyes's knee. Did you know? The whole field went still. Ryan stopped rolling his sleeve. Did you know? Emily said again gently. That's all? It's a yes or a no, and nobody's going to hate you for either one. The pause went on too long. It went on 3 seconds and then 4, and every man in that formation counted them, and Reyes stood at the edge of the mats with an armful of gear and his whole life in his face. Yes, Ryan said. Somebody in the formation said, oh, hell. Yes, Ryan said again louder, and he turned to look at them, all of them. Yes, I knew. I knew in Coronado. I've known for 18 months. His voice didn't shake. That was the awful part. And I kept him. You want to know why? Because Reyes on one leg is better than most men on two, and because if I'd reported it, he'd be behind a desk in Norfolk right now, hating himself, and because I made a call. That's what I do. I make calls. Some of them are ugly. And when he goes down, Emily said, in 14 days, in a stairwell, what's the call then? Ryan looked at her for a long moment. Then I carry him out, he said. With what? Emily said. Ryan didn't answer. With what, Senior Chief? Both your arms are full of him. Who's shooting him? He didn't answer. Kowalski's shooting, Emily said quietly. Kowalski's 24, and he's shooting, and he's watching you carry Reyes, and he's not looking where he should be looking because he's looking at you because he always looks at you. And that's how you lose too. She let it settle. That's not a magic trick, Senior Chief. That's just arithmetic. You've done it in your head already. You did it 18 months ago, and you've done it every night since, and that is why you tore my roster in half before I ever opened my mouth. Ryan Mitchell stood in the middle of his own field in front of his own men, and the thing that had been holding his face together came apart at the edges for exactly 1 second. Then he finished rolling his sleeve. Mats are ready, he said, and let's go. Senior Chief Reyes said, Senior Chief, don't. Get in formation, Reyes. Senior Chief, get in formation. Reyes got in formation. Emily took off her cover and handed it to Kowalski, who took it without thinking, and then stood there holding it like it was a live animal. She unbuttoned her own cuffs. She rolled them one and then the other, the same way he had, and if that was a message, she didn't say so. Rules, Ryan said. You pick. No rules. Then there aren't any, Emily said. They stepped onto the mats. 40 men closed in around them and made a circle, and nobody had ordered it and nobody had to. It happened the way it always happens. The circle is older than the Navy. The circle is older than everything. Ryan set his feet. Last chance, he said. I already gave you yours, Emily said. You didn't take it. He came. He came exactly the way she'd expected, which was not fast and not angry, but heavy with his weight forward and his hands high and his chin tucked. 19 years of doing this compressed into 4 steps, and he was going to take her arm and put her into the mat, and it was going to be over in 3 seconds. He got the arm. That was the thing that nobody in that circle would ever be able to explain afterward. He got exactly what he reached for. His hand closed on her forearm, and every man watching thought the same thought at the same instant, which was, it's done. And then Emily gave him the arm. She didn't fight it. She didn't brace against it. She turned into it and let him have it and stepped through, and the weight he'd committed for, the 210 pounds of certainty he'd put into that pull, kept going, because that's what weight does, because that's the only thing weight has ever done. His own strength took him past her. Her hip was already there. Ryan Mitchell went down like something that had been dropped from a height. The sound the mats made was flat and final. The circle did not make a noise. Not one man. 40 operators watched their senior chief hit the deck, and not one of them made a single sound, and that silence was the loudest thing that had ever happened on that field. Emily was on him before he'd finished bouncing. Not hard, not cruel. Her knee found the hollow of his shoulder, and her forearm found the line of his jaw, and it wasn't a choke. It wasn't anything you could call a technique. It was just a woman putting a man in exactly where he had to be, and holding him there. 2 seconds, she said. Ryan bucked. She let him. She wrote it out and came down in the same place. 3, she said. He got a hand free. He was strong. God, he was strong. He got a hand free and closed it on her collar and started to turn. And she let him do that too. Went with it, and somewhere in the turn, her weight found his hip and stopped it dead, and he was back where he started with less air than before. 4, she said. Senior Chief, listen to me. Get off. 4 seconds, Senior Chief. That's how long it's been. Count it out. Her voice was perfectly level. In 4 seconds, you would have gotten 1 round off, maybe, if you were already up. He got his legs under him. He was going to reverse her. He had the leverage, and he had the base, and everything in his body knew how. And he started to drive, and she released him. Just let go. He came up off the mat like a wave breaking, and there was nothing there to break on. And his own drive carried him over, and she caught his wrist on the way past and turned it 1/4 inch, and he went down again on his face. This time the circle made a noise. It wasn't a cheer, it was worse. It was the sound of 40 men watching a mountain get moved. 5, Emily said. 6. Enough, somebody said. 7, Emily said. She wasn't even breathing hard, and that was somehow the cruelest part. 8, Senior Chief, are you listening? Yes, he said into the mat. Say it. I'm listening. She let go and stood up and stepped back and put her hands at her sides. Ryan Mitchell lay on the mats of his own field for 1 second, and then 2, and then he pushed himself up onto his hands and knees, and then he stood. And he stood all the way up, and he turned around, and there was blood in his mouth from where he'd bitten his cheek, and his uniform was filthy, and 40 men were staring at him. Emily put out her hand. The whole circle stopped. She held it there. Steady, not a gesture, an offer. Take it, she said quietly. Please. He looked at her hand. Senior Chief, she said, and she dropped her voice so only he would hear it. This is the part that matters. Not the throw, this. Every man in this circle is about to learn something from you in the next 3 seconds, and it's going to be the biggest lesson you ever teach them. So take the hand. Ryan Mitchell looked at her hand for a long time. Then he took it. She pulled him in and held on a half-second longer than she had to, and she said so quietly it never left the two of them. That was the bravest thing I've seen anybody do this year. He let go. He wiped his mouth with the back of his wrist. He turned to face his men. Formation, he said. They fell in, fast, faster than they had all morning. Captain Carter has the deck, Ryan said. And then he walked to the end of the front rank and he took his place in it, standing shoulder to shoulder with Kowalski, and he faced front. Kowalski stared at him with his mouth open, still holding Emily's cover. Eyes front, Kowalski, Ryan said. Senior Chief, you're in the formation. That's right. But you're the Senior Chief. That's right, Ryan said. And she's the instructor. Eyes front. Emily stood in front of them, and for the first time all morning, something moved in her face. It moved and she put it away. All right, she said. Reyes, step out. Reyes stepped out. He came to the front and stood there with everything he had left, which wasn't much. Ma'am, he said, before you say it, I know what you're going to say. You don't. You're going to send me to medical. No, Emily said. Reyes blinked. I'm going to ask you a question, Emily said. How many times a night? Reyes went white. How many times a night do you wake up? Emily said. Because of the knee, not the pain. The other thing, the thing where you're up on a roof and you can hear yourself calling and nobody comes. Reyes's mouth opened and no sound came out. 4, he said finally. 4, ma'am. 5 sometimes. Somebody in the formation said, Jesus Reyes. 18 months, Emily said. Yes, ma'am. You carried that for 18 months and you never told one person in this formation. Not once, yeah. 40 men and you carried it alone. Emily nodded slowly. Reyes, that's the strongest thing I've ever heard, and it's the dumbest, and I need you to understand that it's both. Reyes's chin came up, and his eyes were wet, and he didn't look away, and nobody in that formation would ever forget that he didn't look away. 14 days, Emily said. I can't fix a knee in 14 days. Nobody can. So we're not going to fix it. We're going to build a unit that doesn't need it fixed. She turned to the formation. Every one of you is going to learn what Reyes can't do. Not so you can pity him, so you can be there. When he takes a curb, somebody's on his left. When there's rope, somebody's under him. Not because he's weak, because he's your left knee now and you're his. The formation didn't move, but it changed. She felt it change. Done, she said. Ma'am. Right ear. Dunn swallowed. Ma'am, I can pass the done, Emily said. I'm not the exam. I'm not going to write anything down. Right ear. Dunn stood there for 3 seconds. 60%, he said. Maybe less now. Since when? Since the second deployment, ma'am. Does he know? She didn't look at Ryan. Dunn's eyes flicked toward the front rank, toward the man standing in it. No, ma'am, he said. And from the front rank, quietly, Ryan Mitchell said, yes, he does. Every head turned. Yes, he does, Ryan said again, still facing front, still standing in the formation like a private. He's known for a year. He's known since Dunn didn't hear him call a shift on the range, and Dunn covered it with a joke, and everybody laughed. Dunn stared at him. Senior Chief, he said, you never... No, Ryan said, I never. He turned his head and looked at Dunn down the line, and his face was the face of a man who has just realized what he's been for 19 years. I never said anything, and I never said anything about Reyes either, and I told myself both times that I was protecting you. He looked at Emily. I wasn't protecting them. No, Emily said, you were protecting the story. Yeah, Ryan said. The wind came off the Pacific. Captain, Ryan said, permission to speak. Granted. I tore your roster in half. You did. In front of my men. You did. Ryan Mitchell was quiet for a moment. I don't know how to be wrong in front of them, he said. I never learned. 19 years and nobody ever taught me and I never asked. He said it evenly to the whole field, and it cost him more than the mat had. So I'm going to need you to teach me that too, and I'm going to be very bad at it. Senior Chief, Emily said, you just did it. Nobody moved. And then Kowalski, 24 years old, still holding a Marine captain's cover in both hands, like it was the last thing on earth, said, Ma'am, can I ask you the question again? Which what question? What you did, Kowalski said. You said no before. See, you said I'd measure it. He shook his head slowly. Ma'am, I don't think I'd measure it anymore. Emily looked at him, and she smiled just a little for the first time since she'd walked onto that field. Ask me at the end, she said. If you still want to know at the end, I'll tell you. End of what, ma'am? You'll know, Emily said. She took her cover back out of his hands and put it on and squared it. Gear up, she said. We start now, not at 08, now. 40 men moved, and Senior Chief Ryan Mitchell moved with them in the middle of them. One man among many, and no one in that formation ever forgot the morning they watched the mountain get moved and then watched it get up and stand where it should have been standing all along. The gear shed at 0740 smelled like rubber and old sweat and 40 men not talking to each other. Kowalski found Reyes in the back corner, sitting on a bench with his boot off both thumbs pressed into the side of his left knee like he was trying to push something back in. Don't, Reyes said without looking up. I didn't say anything. You were going to. I was going to say I'm on your left, Kowalski said. That's it. That's the whole thing I was going to say. Reyes stopped rubbing. Kowalski. Yeah. 18 months, Reyes said. 18 months, and it took a Marine from outside to say it out loud, and now you're on my left. He laughed, and it wasn't a good laugh. Where the hell were you in Coronado? I didn't know. You watched me take a curb 400 times. I didn't look, Kowalski said, and then he stood there with that in his mouth, tasting it, and it tasted like something he was going to be chewing for a long time. Reyes pulled his boot back on. Get on my left, he said. Out on the field, Emily Carter had not moved in 6 minutes. She stood where the mats were and watched the shed door, and Ryan Mitchell came out of it first in a clean blouse, moving the way a man moves when every muscle in his back has an opinion about the last 10 minutes. He stopped in front of her. Captain? Senior Chief? You put me down in 3 seconds. 4. 4, he agreed, in front of my men. Yes. That's going to be a story for the rest of my life, Ryan said. Somebody's going to tell that in a bar in 20 years, and I'll be dead, and they'll still tell it. Probably. I want you to know I understand what you did, he said. You didn't put me down to win. You put me down to buy the room. You needed 40 men to shut up and listen, and the fastest way to buy that was me. He tilted his head. That's a hell of a price to charge somebody. It was the cheapest thing on the shelf, Emily said. Dosh. Ryan looked at her a moment. What was the expensive thing? Letting you take them out the door in 14 days the way you were, she said. That was the expensive thing. His jaw worked once. Yeah, he said. At 0800, she put 40 men in a line and made them do nothing. That was the first fight. Stand out, she said. Just stand. Nobody moved for 90 seconds. At 2 minutes, somebody's weight shifted. At 3, Petty Officer Dunn cleared his throat. Ma'am, respectfully, what are we doing? Standing. Ma'am? Dunn, how long have you been standing? 3 minutes, ma'am. How long do you think you've been standing? Dunn opened his mouth and closed it. 20, he admitted. That's the whole lesson, Emily said. That's it. That's everything I know right there. Your body has no idea what time it is. Your body is a liar. On a bad night, 4 minutes is going to feel like an hour, and an hour is going to feel like 4 minutes, and you are going to make every single decision that matters inside a clock that doesn't work. She walked the line. So we're going to break your clock on purpose here where it's cheap, so that when it breaks out, there you already know what it feels like. She stopped in front of Kowalski. Kowalski, how long? 4 minutes, ma'am. Yes, again. 4 minutes and 15 seconds, ma'am. Emily raised an eyebrow. You counted, she said. Yes, ma'am. Why, Maybush? Because you told us to stand and do nothing. Kowalski said, and I didn't believe you meant nothing. Something went across her face. It was gone fast. No, she said. I didn't. Good. She kept walking. And then she said without turning around, Brooks. There was a pause about 2 seconds long, and in it, 40 men turned their heads toward the back of the line. Ma'am. Front. Sergeant Olivia Brooks came up the mine, and every step she took was a step past somebody who'd been in this unit longer than her, and she felt every one of them, and her face gave away exactly nothing, which had taken her 3 years to learn. Ma'am. How long? 4 minutes and 40 seconds, ma'am. You counted 2. Yes, ma'am. Why? Brooks hesitated. Say it, Emily said. Because I always count, Brooks said. Every formation, every evolution, every time. Since day one. Her voice was flat. If somebody asks me a question, ma'am, I want to already have the answer. Because if I don't have it, it's not that I made a mistake. It's that I don't belong here. Those are the only 2 options I get. Nobody in that line said a word. Who told you those were the only 2 options? Emily said. Nobody had to, ma'am. Emily stood there and looked at her for a long moment, and then she said something very quietly, and Brooks was the only one close enough to hear it. Brooks, I counted 2, she said. Every day, for 11 years. Brooks's eyes came up. When does it stop, ma'am? I'll tell you at the end of the week, Emily said, and you're not going to like the answer. At 09:30, they went to the mats, and that's when it went wrong. It was Hendricks. It was always going to be Hendricks, 6'4", 240, 11 years, a face like a shovel, and a laugh you could hear from the parking lot. And he had watched Emily put Ryan Mitchell down, and he had come to a conclusion about it, and his conclusion was fluke. Ma'am, he said, can I say something? Go. That thing you did to the senior chief, Hendricks shrugged big and easy. That's a trick. That's not fighting, ma'am, that's a trick. He came in hot, and you gave him the arm, and he did the rest of it himself. That works once. That works one time on one guy who doesn't know it's coming. That's exactly right, Emily said. Hendricks blinked. Ma'am, that's exactly right, Hendricks. That's the smartest thing anybody's said to me since I got here. She turned to the whole group. He's right. It works once. Everything works once. There is no technique on this planet that works twice on a man who's paying attention. And if I ever tell you otherwise, I want you to stop listening to me. So what are you teaching us? Hendricks said. How to be the man who's paying attention. With respect, ma'am, that's a bumper sticker. Somebody laughed. It got cut off fast. Emily didn't move. Hendricks, she said. How many? Ma'am, how many of you would it take? You've done the math. Every man out here has done the math since 07 this morning, and you're the only one honest enough to still have the number in his mouth. So say the number. Hendricks looked at her. 5, he said. The field went dead quiet. 5, Emily repeated. Yes, ma'am. 5 men, no rules, no mat, and I'm not saying that to disrespect you. I'm saying it because it's true. 5 men, and it doesn't matter what you know. Physics doesn't care what you know. That's the second smartest thing anybody said to me today, Emily said. Pick them. Ryan Mitchell stepped forward. Captain. Senior Chief, get back in the line. Captain, I'm not going to let you get back in the line. He got back in the line. Nobody had ever seen that before either. It was the second time in 2 hours, and the men who saw it would spend the next month trying to describe it to men who hadn't and failing. Hendricks picked 4. He picked them well. He picked the biggest, and he picked the fastest, and he picked Dunn because Dunn was mean, and he picked a kid named Vasquez who had wrestled at Iowa. 5 of them stood on the mats, and Emily Carter stood in front of them, and she looked exactly as concerned as a woman waiting for a bus. Rules, Hendricks said. You keep asking me that, Emily said. Nobody out there is going to ask you that. No rules? No rules, she agreed. One thing. Ma'am. When it's done, Emily said, and Hendricks listened to me carefully because this is the part I actually need. When it's done, I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to answer it honest in front of everybody, even if the answer makes you look bad. Can you do that? Hendricks's face changed slightly. Yes, ma'am. Then go. They came. 5 men came at one woman on a mat at 9:40 in the morning, and it was the ugliest thing anybody on that field had ever watched, and it lasted 11 seconds, and it did not go the way the story wanted it to go. She lost. She lost fast. Vasquez got her legs. He shot low, and he was good, and she wasn't going to stop it, and she didn't try, and the second she was down, Hendricks put 240 pounds on her chest, and Dunn pinned an arm, and it was over. It was over. 40 men stood there, and nobody made a sound, and Kowalski said out loud to nobody, "No." "Ma'am," Hendricks said. He was breathing hard. He wasn't smiling. That was the strange part. He'd won, and he wasn't smiling. "Ma'am, tap." "Why?" Emily said from underneath him. "Because it's done. Ask your question, Hendricks." "Ma'am, tap." "You said you'd answer mine," Emily said. Her voice came out compressed and calm. "Here it is. Where's Reyes?" Hendricks froze. "What? Where's Reyes?" Emily said. "Where is he? Right now. Point at him." Hendricks's head came up, and every man on that mat looked around, and Reyes wasn't in the line. Reyes was 6 feet behind Vasquez. He'd been walking for 11 seconds. Slow quiet on a bad left knee, and not one of the 5 had seen him move because all 5 of them had been looking at her. "He's had a hand on the back of your collar for 4 seconds, Vasquez," Emily said. "How's that feel?" Vasquez let go of her legs like they were hot. "Get off," Emily said. Hendricks got off. She stood up. She took her time about it. She rolled her shoulder once and straightened her blouse, and she wasn't hurt, and she wasn't out of breath, and she looked at 5 of the best operators in the United States Navy. "You won," she said. "Say it." Nobody said it. "Hendricks, you won. Say it." "We won, ma'am," Hendricks said. He said it like a man reading his own autopsy. "Yes, you did. 11 seconds. Physics doesn't care what I know, and you were right, and there is not one thing I could have done about it." She looked at them. "And you all died." Silence. 5 of you," Emily said. 5 of the finest, and every single one of you gave your eyes to one target for 11 seconds, and a man with a wrecked knee walked up behind you at a stroll and put his hand on the back of the neck of the best wrestler in this unit, and you never knew he existed. "Ma'am," Vasquez started. "How many people are out there, Vasquez? On the 14th day? Is it 5? Is it just the 5 you can see?" Vasquez didn't answer. "That's the lesson," Emily said. "That's the only lesson. You cannot beat me. I know that. I've known it since I walked out here. 5 of you will beat me every time, 10 times out of 10, and I will never once win that fight." She turned and looked at the whole formation. "But I will always know where Reyes is, and that is the difference between winning and coming home, and gentlemen, they are not the same thing, and one of them is worth something." Kowalski in the 3rd rank said, "Oh," out loud the way a man says it when a door opens. Ryan Mitchell stood in the front rank and looked at the mat and did not move at all. Hendricks put out his hand. Emily looked at it. "That's mine to give," she said. "Not yours." Hendricks's hand did not drop. "Ma'am," he said. "I know, I'm asking anyway." Emily took it. "Hendricks," she said, "you lost a fight you won. Do you understand what that costs a man like you?" Starting to ma'am. "Good, because I'm going to make you do it 4 more times this week." "Yes, ma'am." At 1100, they broke for water, and that's when Brooks found her. Emily was refilling a canteen, and Brooks came up and stood there, and didn't say anything for about 8 seconds. Say it, Emily said. Ma'am, permission to speak freely. You don't have to ask me that, ever. That's a rule now. They love you already, Brooks said. Emily kept filling the canteen. That's not a compliment, is it? She said. No, ma'am. Brooks' voice was very low. It took you 4 hours. 4 hours and Hendricks is asking to lose again, and Kowalski's got that look, and the senior chief is standing in a formation like a boot. 4 hours. And 3 years, Brooks said. Ma'am, I have been in this unit for 3 years. I have never been late. I have never failed in evolution. I have outrun, outshot, and outcarried men who will get promoted before me, and I did it every day for 3 years, and I am still the person they have to decide about. She stopped. Her jaw was tight. You did it in 4 hours. So I want to know how, ma'am, because whatever it is, I don't have it, and I've been looking for 3 years. Emily capped the canteen. Brooks, she said, you want the true answer or the nice one? The true one. You're never going to get it. Brooks's face didn't move. Ma'am, you're never going to get it, Emily said again. Not the way you're going about it. You've been trying to be so good that they can't argue. That's the strategy, right? Be so perfect that there's nothing left to say. 3 years of never being late. She looked at her. Brooks, it doesn't work. It has never worked. Not one time in the history of this country has a woman been so good that a man had nothing left to say. Brooks's throat moved. Then what? She said. I didn't come out here perfect, Emily said. I came out here and I let Ryan Mitchell get my arm. I let 5 men put me on my back in 11 seconds in front of everybody. I lost Brooks. Publicly. On purpose. Twice in one morning. She handed the canteen over. You will never be so good they can't argue. But you can be so useful that arguing costs them something. That's the door. It's the only door. And it's not on the other side of perfect. It's on the other side of being seen losing and not dying of it. Brooks sat there with the canteen in her hand. Ma'am, she said, and her voice cracked once right in the middle, and she hated it, and she kept going anyway. I don't know how to be seen losing. I know, Emily said. Neither did I. That's why I'm telling you, and not one of them. How long did it take you? 11 years. Ma'am, I don't have 11 years. No, Emily said. You've got 14 days. Brooks's head came up sharply. Ma'am. But Emily was already walking. At 1300, she put them on the ropes and made them all climb blindfolded. And when they came down, she asked one question. Who was under Reyes, Kowalski, Vasquez, Hendricks, Dunn? All 4 of them said it at once. Emily nodded. That took 4 hours, she said. Yesterday, it would have taken forever. At 14:30, she made Dunn stand at the far end of the field with his back turned and made Ryan give orders and made the whole formation watch what happened when a man couldn't hear. Dunn got 3 of them wrong. He got the 4th one right. How? Emily said. I watched Kowalski's feet, ma'am, Dunn said. Was that cheating? Dunn hesitated. Yes, ma'am. Dunn, listen to me, Emily said. That's not cheating. That's the whole job. That's the only job. There is no exam out there. There's no proctor. Nobody's watching to see if you did it the honest way. There's a man in a stairwell, and either you know what he said or you don't, and if you have to read it off Kowalski's boots, then you read it off Kowalski's boots and you go home. Her voice sharpened. Do you understand what I just gave you? Dunn stood there at the end of the field. Yes, ma'am, he said, and then, ma'am, I've been faking hearing for 2 years. I know. 2 years, ma'am. I got very good at it. I got so good at it that sometimes I forget I can't hear. He was quiet a second. You just told me I can stop. I told you to stop, Emily said. That's an order. Effective. Now you are the worst hearing man in this unit, and everybody knows it, and it is nobody's secret. How's that feel? Dunn was quiet for a long moment. Like I put something down, ma'am, he said. Somebody in the formation clapped. One person, then it stopped and embarrassed. Who was that? Emily said. Nobody answered. It was me, Ryan Mitchell said from the front rank. At 1600, she gave them 90 seconds of silence, and then she said, tomorrow we go to the desert. 40 men came to attention without being told. 72 hours. Full kit. It's a hunt. She let that sit. You're the hunters. I'm the rabbit. There's a commanding officer with me and an objective. And if you find us before we finish, you win. Simple. Hendricks raised a hand. Ma'am, 40 of us. One of you. That's right. Ma'am, with respect, that's not a hunt. That's a formality. Hendricks, this morning, you told me physics doesn't care what I know. Yes, ma'am. It doesn't, Emily said. Physics also doesn't care that there's 40 of you. She smiled slightly. Bring water. That should have been the end of the day. At 16:40, Ryan Mitchell walked into the admin hut and found her alone with a map, and he shut the door behind him. Captain, he said, I've got a question and I want a straight answer. Ask. Halloran doesn't send Marine instructors to SEAL units, Ryan said. That's not a thing. That's never been a thing. In 19 years, I have never once seen it, and I asked around today, and neither has anybody else. He put his hands on the back of a chair. So who are you? I'm a combat instructor. Captain? Senior Chief. You knew Reyes's knee in 90 minutes, Ryan said. Fine, that's the job, I'll buy that. You knew Dunn's ear. Fine. His voice dropped. You knew about the letters. Emily didn't look up from the map. 11 men, Ryan said. You said 11. You said I rewrite the first paragraph every time. He came around the chair. Captain, there's not a file on this earth that says that. There's not a file that knows that. My wife doesn't know that. I have never said that sentence out loud to a living human being. Emily put the pencil down. No, she said. You haven't. Then how? Because my father used to rewrite the first paragraph, Emily said. Ryan Mitchell stood very still. Every time, Emily said, he'd sit at the kitchen table with a legal pad and a glass of something, and he'd write the first paragraph 9 times and throw 8 of them away, and I'd find them in the trash in the morning and read them. I was 11. She finally looked up. So when I said it to you this morning, Senior Chief, I wasn't reading you. I was reading him. I've just never met a man it didn't work on. The hut was quiet. Who was your father? Ryan said. Master Gunnery Sergeant Thomas Carter. Ryan's hand came off the chair. No, he said. Yes. No? Senior Chief. Thomas Carter taught my instructor, Ryan said. His voice had gone strange. Thomas Carter taught the man who taught me. There's a photo of him on a wall in Coronado, Captain. There's a building. He stared at her. You're Tom Carter's daughter, and you walked onto my field this morning and let me tear your roster in half, and you didn't say a word. Would it have helped? It would have... Ryan stopped. Say it, Emily said. It would have made me listen, Ryan said. To him, Emily said, not to me. She stood up. Senior Chief. I have a name that opens every door in this business, and I have never once used it. And do you want to know why? Because the first day I did, I would stop being a combat master and start being a daughter. And the next time somebody handed me 40 men, they'd be handing them to a ghost. And ghosts can't teach. She squared the map. So no, I don't say it, ever. And you're not going to say it either. Ryan Mitchell looked at her for a long moment. He died, he said. That's the story I heard. Hesitation. Half a second. That's the story everybody heard. Something in the way she said it made the hair go up on his arms. Captain, he said slowly. What's the story I didn't hear? Emily didn't answer. Captain. Senior Chief, she said, we go to the desert at 05. That's not an answer. No, she agreed. It isn't. He should have let it go. He didn't. He'd never once in 19 years let a thing go, and that was half of what was wrong with him and all of what made him good. One more question, he said. Go. The mission, Ryan said. 14 days. You've said it 4 times today. 14 days, and every time you say it like a man saying a date he's already circled. He watched her face. Captain, that mission is compartmented. 40 men on this base know the date, and 39 of them are in my unit. Emily was quiet. Halloran didn't send you here to train us, Ryan said. He sent me here to train you. For what? And Emily Carter looked up at Senior Chief Ryan Mitchell. And for one single second, the thing she'd been carrying all day came up into her face and stood there where he could see it. Senior Chief, she said, in 14 days, I'm going with you. Ryan Mitchell didn't move. You're a Marine, he said. Yes. You're a Marine instructor. Yes. You don't go on my mission. No, Emily said, I don't. Then why are you going? She picked the pencil back up. Because somebody has to know where Reyes is, she said, and it isn't going to be you. Not on that one. Not on that night. Captain, O5 Senior Chief, Emily said. Bring water. And Ryan Mitchell walked out of that hut into the cold with 19 years and 11 letters and a 14-day clock in his chest, and for the first time since he was 22 years old, he did not know one single thing about what was coming for him. O5 came cold, and nobody complained about it, which told Emily Carter more about the last 24 hours than anything else could have. 40 men stood in full kit in the dark, and Ryan Mitchell walked the line and checked every one of them personally, and when he got to Reyes, he stopped. Knee, he said. Good as Senior Chief. Reyes. Reyes was quiet a second. Bad, he said. It's bad, Senior Chief. Cole makes it bad. Ryan Mitchell stood there in front of 40 men and didn't say anything for 3 full seconds, and every man in that line understood exactly what those 3 seconds cost him. Kowalski, he said finally, Senior Chief, you're on his left, 72 hours. You don't sleep on his right, you don't walk on his right, you don't eat on his right, left, the whole time. Yes, Senior Chief? Say it back. Left, Senior Chief, the whole time. Good. Ryan moved down the line and then he stopped and he turned around. Reyes. Senior Chief? That's the last time I ask, Ryan said. From here on you tell me. I'm not going to catch you at it. You're going to say it out loud like a grown man, and I'm going to say thank you. That's the deal now. Reyes's throat moved. Yes, Senior Chief, he said. Emily watched all of it from 20 feet away and didn't say a word. She didn't have to. Hendricks said it for her out of the side of his mouth, quiet enough that only Vasquez heard. 24 hours, Hendricks said. Yeah, 24 hours and he's a different man. He's not a different man, Vasquez said. He's the same man. She just took the lid off. At 06:15, she gave them the brief, and it took 90 seconds. 72 hours, Emily said. 200 square miles. There are 2 of us out there, me and a commanding officer, and we have an objective, and we have to reach it and complete it before the clock runs out. You have to find us first. That's the whole thing. Ma'am, Vasquez said, what's the objective? None of your business. Ma'am, if we don't know what you're trying to do, Vasquez, when it's real, does the enemy send you his objective? Vasquez shut up. Rules, Emily said. No live rounds, no breaking anybody. Everything else is on the table, and I mean everything. And I want you to hear that carefully because I'm not going to be sporting about this, and I don't want anybody feeling betrayed at hour 30. Ma'am. Kowalski. Question. Go. Who's the commanding officer? Emily looked at him for a moment. You'll know when you find him, she said. Clock starts in 15 minutes. Good luck, gentlemen. She walked off into the dark. Hendricks watched her go and said to nobody in particular, 200 square miles and 40 of us in a 72-hour clock. Somebody explained to me how she doesn't lose this. Ryan Mitchell said quietly, she's not trying to win it. Senior Chief. She's not trying to win it, Hendricks. She told us that yesterday and every one of you heard it and not one of you listened. He turned around. She said it on the mat. You cannot beat me and I will never beat you, and one of those is worth something. She wasn't being poetic. She was reading us the plan. Nobody said anything. Get your kit, Ryan said. Hunt starts in 12. They lost her in 4 hours. Not lost track of. Lost. 40 operators with thermal with drones with 200 years of collective experience. And by 1000 hours, there was not one signature, not one track, not one broken twig anywhere in a 40-mile arc. And Vasquez said what everybody was thinking. Senior Chief, she's not out here. She's out here. Senior Chief, respectfully, there's nothing. 2 people can't move through this without leaving. She's out here, Vasquez. How do you know? Ryan Mitchell was quiet for a moment. Because she said she would be, he said, and I haven't caught her lying yet. At 11:40, they found the first thing. It was a canteen, sitting upright on a rock, full. Hendricks got to it first and stood over it and didn't touch it. Senior Chief, he said into the radio, you want to come see this? Ryan came. He looked at it for a long time. It's a canteen, Hendricks said. It's a full canteen sitting on a rock in the middle of nowhere. That's not an accident. Nobody sets a canteen down like that. No. So what is it? It's bait. It's got to be bait. She wants us to spend an hour standing around a canteen. Ryan crouched. Kowalski, he said. Come here. Kowalski came. What do you see? A canteen, senior chief. What else? Kowalski looked. He looked for maybe 20 seconds, and then his whole body changed. It's ours, he said. Everybody went quiet. It's ours, senior chief. That's a unit canteen. That's got the depot stamp on it. That's not hers that came out of our shed. He looked up. Senior chief, she was in our gear shed. When, Hendricks said. Kowalski's face went white. Last night, he said. Or this morning. Senior chief, she was in our shed this morning while we were standing in the dark getting checked. She was walking around inside our... Count your kit, Ryan said. What? Everybody count your kit. Right now. 40 men counted their kit. It took 4 minutes, and at the end of it, Dunn said in a voice that didn't sound like his own, Senior chief, I'm missing a radio battery. Me too, said Vasquez. Me too, said 3 other men. Ryan Mitchell stood up slowly. How many, he said. They counted again. 11 batteries, 11 men, 11 batteries pulled out of 11 pouches sometime between midnight and 05, and not one of them had noticed, and every one of them had passed a personal inspection by the senior chief himself. Senior chief, Hendricks said. She checked our kit before you did. Yeah. She went through 40 men's gear in the dark and took exactly one thing from 11 of us and put it back so we wouldn't feel the weight change. Hendricks's voice was flat. Senior chief, that's not a training exercise. That's a message. What's the message? Kowalski said. The message is she could have been anybody, Ryan said. That's the message. If she can walk through that shed, so can somebody else. And on the 14th day, it won't be batteries. He stood up and looked at the canteen. She's telling us we already lost, and it's hour 6. Vasquez said, then why leave the canteen? Why tell us at all? If she wanted to win, she just doesn't say anything, and we go 3 days on dead radios. Ryan looked at him. Because she's not trying to win, he said. Vasquez, I've said that twice today. At 1300, Brooks found the trail. Not a footprint, nothing anybody could photograph. She came up beside Ryan and said, Senior chief, she's going northeast. Based on what? Based on nothing, senior chief. Ryan turned and looked at her. Say that again. Based on nothing, Brooks said. Her jaw was tight. There's no sign. There's no track. I don't have a single thing I can show you. I just know. Hendricks laughed. It wasn't mean. It was just reflex. Brooks, come on. Hendricks, no, I'm not. Brooks, I'm not busting you. I'm just saying you can't take a hunch to the senior chief and call it. Then don't call it anything, Brooks said. And her voice came up, and it came up loud, and 40 men turned around. Don't call it a hunch. Don't call it intel. Call it nothing. Call it a woman guessing. Write it down that way, I don't care. She was breathing hard now. But she's going northeast, and in 6 hours, you're going to know it, and I'm telling you now. Nobody moved, Bunnis. Ryan Mitchell said, why northeast? Because there's nothing there, Brooks said. That's not a reason. It's the only reason. Brooks's hands were shaking, and she didn't hide them, and that was new. Senior chief, she's got an objective. We don't know what it is. But she can't do it in the open, and she can't do it where we'd look, and every single one of us has spent all morning searching the places a person would go. Water, cover, high ground. She's not going anywhere a person would go. She pointed. She's going where nobody would go. That's northeast. It's flat, and it's exposed, and it's stupid, and that's why she's there. Silence. Senior chief, Vasquez said carefully, that's a hell of a bet on a hunch. It's not a hunch, Ryan said. Everybody looked at him. It's not a hunch, he said again. That's the same thing she did on the mat. Everybody looked at the target because looking at the target is what a person does. She didn't beat 5 men. She just went where nobody was looking, and Brooks just told us she's doing it again with 200 square miles. He turned. Brooks, senior chief? How long have you known? Brooks hesitated. Since 1000, senior chief. 1000, Ryan repeated. That's 3 hours. Yes, senior chief. Why didn't you say it at 1000? Brooks stood there in front of 40 men. Because I wasn't sure, she said. Brooks, because I wasn't sure, senior chief, and if I say it and I'm wrong, then I'm the one who... She stopped. Her whole face was working. Because Vasquez says something and he's wrong, And he's a guy who was wrong. If I say something and I'm wrong, I'm the reason they'll say it about the next one. Nobody breathed. 3 hours, Ryan said quietly. Yes, Senior Chief. 3 hours because you were carrying that. Yes, Senior Chief. Ryan Mitchell looked at the ground for a moment. Brooks, he said. That's on me. Brooks's head came up. Senior Chief? 3 years, Ryan said. You've been in my unit 3 years, and you learned that in my unit from me because I never once said out loud that you could be wrong here. He looked at her. You're going to be wrong in front of me. That's an order. This week. Pick something new. Brooks didn't move. Northeast, Ryan said. Everybody, move. They found her at 1750. Or she found them. Afterward, no two men in that unit ever agreed on which. The whole line went down at once, and Kowalski came up on the radio, breathing like he'd been running, and said, Contact, contact, she's Senior Chief. She's sitting down. Say again. She's sitting on the ground. Senior Chief, 40 meters. She's not moving. She's waving. Ryan Mitchell came up over the rise and looked down at Captain Emily Carter, sitting on the dirt, with her elbows on her knees, waving at him. He keyed his radio. All units hold. Senior Chief is Hendricks. Hold. Ryan walked down alone. Captain? Senior Chief, you're sitting down. I am. We've got you, Ryan said. 40 men, 200 meters of overlapping fields. It's hour 12. He crouched in front of her. Captain, you lost. Did I? Where's the commanding officer? Emily smiled slightly. Which one? And that was when Ryan Mitchell's stomach dropped because he understood 1 full second before she said it exactly what she'd done. Captain, he said, how many of us are out here? You tell me. 40, Ryan said. 40 and you. Count them, Emily said. Ryan keyed his radio. All elements sound off by number. They sounded off. They got to 38. Ryan Mitchell stood very slowly. Reyes, he said into the radio. Reyes, sound off. Nothing. Kowalski, you're on his left. Sound off. Nothing. The radio was dead quiet, and 40 men on a hillside listened to 2 names not answer, and Hendricks said, Senior Chief, they were right there. They were 40 meters off my flank at 1700. Captain, Ryan said. His voice had gone completely flat. Where are my men? Northeast, Emily said, where nobody would go. Captain. Senior Chief, Emily said, and she stood up and dusted off her hands. At 1400 hours today, I made contact with Petty Officer Reyes and Petty Officer Kowalski, and I asked them to help me, and they said yes. And they've been walking my objective northeast for the last 4 hours, while 40 of the best operators in the United States Navy chased a woman who was sitting in the dirt waiting to wave at them. Nobody spoke. You've had me for 11 minutes, Emily said. You've had my hands, my radio, my location, everything. And in 11 minutes, the objective moved 8 kilometers and you helped. Hendricks's voice came over the net and it was raw. They wouldn't. Senior Chief Reyes wouldn't. Reyes did, Emily said. Ask him why. Captain, Ryan said. Why did he? Ask him, Emily said. Not me. That's his to say. At 1900, they got Reyes on the radio and he wouldn't answer for 8 seconds, and then he did. Senior Chief. Reyes. Ryan's voice was iron. Explain. Senior Chief, she asked me a question. What question? Reyes was quiet. Reyes. She asked me what I could do that nobody else in this unit can do, Reyes said. Nobody made a sound. And I said nothing, Senior Chief. I said, I'm the guy with the bad knee. That's what I am. That's my whole thing now. Everybody's on my left. His voice cracked. And she said, Reyes, there's 40 men out there and 39 of them are looking for a woman. And every one of them is going to look right past a man in a U.S. Navy uniform limping. Because a limping seal is a broken seal, and a broken seal is furniture. He stopped. She said, Reyes, you're the only man in this unit who's invisible. And she asked if I wanted to be worth something. Ryan Mitchell closed his eyes, and I said, yes, Senior Chief, Reyes said. I said yes so fast it scared me. Reyes, Ryan said, and his voice had gone strange. You walked 8 clicks on that knee. Yes, Senior Chief. How bad? 3 seconds. Bad, Reyes said. It's bad, Senior Chief. Say the rest of it. I don't want to stop, Reyes said. That's not what I asked. Senior Chief, Petty Officer Reyes, you and I made a deal at 05 this morning. You say it out loud like a grown man. Say the rest of it. A long silence. I can't feel my foot, Reyes said. At 2000 hours, Ryan Mitchell put his hand over his radio and said one word. Captain. Emily looked at him. You knew, he said. I knew what he'd say. You knew what it would cost him. Yes, Emily said. Ryan Mitchell hit her. He didn't. He stopped himself with his hand already moving and everything in his 19 years standing behind it, and he stopped it, and his fist hung in the air between them. And Emily Carter did not flinch, did not blink, did not move 1 inch. Go ahead, she said. Ryan's hand shook. You used a broken man, he said. I used the only man out here who nobody would look at, Emily said. Senior Chief, put your hand down. You used him. I gave him back to you, Emily said, and it was the first time all week she'd raised her voice, and it went through that hillside like a shot. You want to hit me, but he walked 8 kilometers on a dead leg because for 4 hours he was worth something instead of furniture, and you had 18 months to give him that, and you gave him a man on his left instead. Ryan Mitchell's hand came down. Captain, he said quietly, that was cruel. Yes, Emily said, it was. Then why? Because in 14 days it's going to be cruel too, she said, and nobody out there is going to explain it to him afterward. At 22:40 it went wrong for real. Kowalski came up on the net and he was not calm, and Kowalski had been calm through everything, and that was how the whole unit knew before he even said it. Senior Chief Reyes is down. Reyes is down. He went down off a bank. I've got him. He's conscious. Senior Chief, the leg is wrong. Senior Chief, it's not. Kowalski, breathe. Senior Chief, it's bent. Ryan Mitchell stood on that hillside. How far to the objective, he said. Silence on the net. Kowalski, how far? 600 meters, Senior Chief. 600 meters. 40 men heard it. 68 hours into a 72-hour clock. Hunting a woman who had beaten them at every single turn for 3 days. And there was the objective 600 meters from a man who could tell them exactly where it was. And Ryan Mitchell had 38 operators inside 2 kilometers of it. Senior Chief Hendricks said, say the word and we're on it in 11 minutes. Senior Chief Vasquez said, we can win this. And Kowalski's voice small on the open net with everybody listening. Senior Chief, he's asking me to leave him. Nobody breathed. He's saying go, Kowalski said. Senior Chief, he's saying it's 600 meters and he can wait and go get it. He's Senior Chief, he keeps saying it. He won't stop saying it. Ryan Mitchell stood in the dark with a radio in his hand. Emily Carter watched him and said nothing at all. 12 seconds went by. Senior Chief, Hendricks said. 11 minutes. Senior Chief, Vasquez said. 3 days. 3 days, Senior Chief. Senior Chief, Brooks said, and every head turned because Brooks never spoke on the net. Brooks had never once in 3 years spoken on the net unless spoken to. Senior Chief, I'm going to be wrong in front of you now. You told me to pick something. Ryan's throat moved. Go ahead, Brooks. If we go get it, Brooks said, we won't be a unit that won. We'll be a unit that left him, and I'll be the woman who didn't say anything. Again. Her voice was completely steady. So I'm saying it out loud, in front of everybody. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The net was silent. Ryan Mitchell keyed the radio. All elements, he said. Break contact. Converge on Kowalski's position. Medical evac immediate. Senior Chief Hendricks, immediate. Senior Chief, the objective. There is no objective, Ryan said. Hendricks, there's never been an objective. There's a man with a broken leg and 600 meters of nothing, and I've been chasing a ghost for 3 days. Break contact. Move. They moved. 38 men crossed 2 kilometers in the dark in under 14 minutes, and every one of them ran past the objective without one single man turning his head, and Emily Carter jogged the whole way at the back of the formation and never said a word. The exercise clock ran out at 23:19. They lost. At 23:40 with a bird inbound and Reyes strapped and Kowalski still holding his hand and refusing to let go of it. Ryan Mitchell walked over to where Emily Carter was standing and stopped in front of her. You won, he said. Yes. 3 days, 40 men. You made us look like children. Yes. Ryan Mitchell laughed, and it was a terrible sound, and it was real. Say it, he said. Say what? Say the thing you've been waiting 3 days to say, Captain. You've earned it. Go ahead. Emily looked at him. Senior Chief, she said, I'm not going to say anything because you already know it, and if I say it now, I'll take it away from you. Captain, I lost. You lost the exercise. I lost the exercise, Captain, Ryan stopped. He stopped right there, standing in the dark at 2340, and Emily watched it arrive in him the way you watch weather come across water. Oh, Ryan Mitchell said. Yeah, Emily said. That's it, he said. That's the whole thing. That's what you came out here to do. He put his hands on the back of his head and stood there. 19 years. 19 years, Captain, and every single one of them I have been running at 600 meters, every time. That's my whole life. That's the letters. His voice went strange. 11 letters, Captain, and you want to know what every single one of them has in it. The first paragraph, the one I rewrite 9 times, it's the same paragraph. It's always been the same paragraph. Say it, Emily said. He was 600 meters from it, Ryan said. The bird came in. Nobody said anything for a while after that. At 23:58, Hendricks came over. He stood there for a second, and then he said, Ma'am, question. Go. 600 meters. Was that real? Yes. So there really was an objective. There really was. And we ran past it. Every one of you, Emily said. 38 men. Not one turned his head. Hendricks nodded slowly. Ma'am, he said. What was it? Emily reached into her breast pocket and took out a folded piece of paper, and the 2 torn halves of a roster came out with it, and she caught them and pushed them back in. She held the paper up. This, she said. Ma'am, what is it? It's a recommendation, Emily said. Signed by me. Countersigned by Rear Admiral Halloran 3 weeks ago and left in a box in the dirt 600 meters from where your friend broke his leg. She looked at him. It's 1 page. It has 1 line on it. The line says whether this unit deploys in 14 days or doesn't. Hendricks did not move. Ma'am, he said, whether we deploy. Yes. You had the authority to scrub the mission. I have the authority to scrub the mission, Emily said. Present tense. Ryan Mitchell turned around very slowly. Captain, he said, so what was in the box? An empty page, Emily said. There's nothing on it. There's never been anything on it. Because for 3 weeks I didn't know what I was going to write, and I told Halloran I wouldn't know until hour 68, and he asked me why hour 68, and I said, sir, because that's when it stops being training. Nobody breathed. Captain, Ryan said, if we'd taken the objective. Then you'd have found an empty page, Emily said, and I'd have written no on it in the truck on the way back, and I'd have written it with my father's pen, and I would have slept fine. Hendricks made a sound like he'd been hit. Ma'am. Hendricks' 38 men ran past a piece of paper that could end their careers, Emily said in the dark at a full sprint, and not one of you turned his head because there was a man on the ground. She folded the page. Senior Chief, she said. You asked me what I was going to say. Here it is. You lost every single thing you could lose out here in 72 hours. You lost the hunt, you lost the objective, you lost the clock, and you lost your record, and you did it on purpose in front of your men. Ryan Mitchell stood there. And at hour 68, Emily Carter said, you finally stopped being 600 meters away. The page was still in her pocket at 0240 when Ryan Mitchell found her outside the surgical wing with her back against the wall and her eyes open. Captain? Senior Chief? They've got him in there, Ryan said. Tibial plateau. It's not the knee that broke, it's the bone above it. I know. 4 hours in surgery, maybe 5. He leaned against the wall beside her 6 feet away, the exact distance men leave when they don't know what they are to each other yet. Doc says he'll walk. Doc says he'll walk, Emily repeated. Yeah. Did Doc say anything else? Ryan was quiet a second. Doc said he won't operate, he said. Not the surgery, the job. Doc said Reyes is done. Emily didn't say anything. 11 years, Ryan said. 11 years, and he's done because a Marine captain asked him to walk 8 kilometers on a leg she knew was finished. And Captain, I've been standing in that hallway for 4 hours trying to decide if I'm going to hate you for the rest of my life. That's fair. Don't do that. Do what? Don't be reasonable about it. His voice came up. You don't get to stand there and agree with me. If you agree with me, then you knew, and if you knew, then you did it anyway, and I don't have anywhere to put that. Emily turned her head and looked at him. Senior Chief, she said. Ask me the question you actually came out here to ask. Ryan Mitchell stood there. Was he ever going to deploy? He said. No. The word landed like a dropped plate. Say it again. No, Emily said. Reyes was never going to deploy. He was off the manifest on day one. Halloran pulled him 3 weeks ago, and I read the paper myself, and I've known it since before I ever saw his face. Ryan came off the wall. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. You knew for 3 weeks that man was finished, and you stood on my field, and you told me I was going to write letter 12 about him. Yes. Why? Because you'd have argued about the deployment, Emily said. You'd have argued for a month. You'd have gone to Halloran, and you'd have gone over Halloran, and you'd have spent every favor you have in this Navy fighting a piece of paper, and Senior Chief you'd have lost, and Reyes would have gotten a phone call from a personnel clerk in Norfolk telling him his career was over. Her voice was flat and even. That's how it ends. That's how it ends every single time for every single one of them. A clerk, a phone call, and a man goes home and sits in a garage for 30 years wondering if he ever mattered. Ryan's hands were shaking. So instead, Emily said, he walked 8 kilometers, and 38 men ran 2,000 meters in the dark to get to him. And the last thing Petty Officer Reyes will ever do in a United States Navy uniform is the single most important thing anybody in this unit did all week. He's crippled captain. He was already crippled Senior Chief, Emily said. I didn't do that. Coronado did that. 18 months of silence did that. I just made sure that when the bill came due, he got to spend it on something. Ryan Mitchell put both hands on the wall and leaned on it. You should have told me, he said. Yes, Emily said. I should have. He looked up. That's the first thing you've admitted all week. It's the first thing I've been wrong about all week, Emily said. Senior Chief, I've been doing this 11 years, and I've done it alone every single time. And I did it alone this time too, out of habit, and I shouldn't have. You'd have carried it, you'd have hated it, and you'd have carried it, and I didn't give you the chance. She pushed off the wall. So write that down, put it in your pocket. Next time somebody tells you the Marine captain is never wrong, you tell them about the hallway. At 04:15, Kowalski was still in the waiting area, and he had not moved in 6 hours. Brooks sat down 2 chairs away. You should sleep, she said. He said, go. Kowalski. He said, go, Kowalski said. His eyes were red and fixed on nothing. He said it 11 times. I counted. 11 times, Brooks, and every single time he said it, he was looking at me like he was sorry. He was apologizing. He was lying there with his leg bent the wrong way, apologizing to me for being in the way. He put his hands over his face. How does a man get like that? How does a man get to where breaking his own leg is something he has to say sorry for? Brooks didn't answer for a while. He learned it, she said. From who? From all of us, Brooks said. Kowalski, I've done it too. 3 years. Every time I ever sat down, every time I ever needed something, I said sorry first. It's not something he caught, it's something we taught him. Kowalski dropped his hands. Brooks, he said, can I say something stupid? Go. I've been in this unit 2 years and I never learned your first name. Brooks looked at him. Olivia, she said. 2 years, Kowalski said. Yeah. That's not stupid, Kowalski said. That's the worst thing I've heard all week, and I watched a man break his leg. At 0600, Rear Admiral Halloran's aide called the base and asked for Captain Carter, and Captain Carter did not take the call, and at 0730, Halloran drove down himself. Ryan Mitchell watched a 2-star walk into an admin hut and shut the door, and he stood outside it with 38 men who had not slept in 3 days, and Hendricks said, Senior Chief, what happens in there? She writes on the page. That's it. That's it. Senior Chief, that's our whole lives, Hendricks said. That's 1 page, 1 line. She writes 1 word and 38 men either deploy or spend the rest of their careers being the unit that got scrubbed. Yeah. And you're just standing here. Ryan Mitchell looked at him. What do you want me to do, Hendricks? Go in there. Hendricks's voice cracked. Senior Chief, go in there and tell him what happened out there. Tell him about Reyes. Tell him we broke contact. Tell him we did the right thing, because if she writes no, because we did the right thing, then I don't understand anything. Senior Chief, I don't understand one single thing about the last 3 days. Hendricks, Because I've been doing this 11 years, and I finally did the thing she wanted, and if that's what gets us scrubbed, then what was the point? Hendricks stopped. I'm not going in there, Ryan said quietly, because for 19 years, every single time something mattered, I went in the room, and every time I went in the room, I got what I wanted. And every time I got what I wanted, somebody paid for it later. And I never once saw the bill because I was already in the next room getting the next thing. He looked at the door. She told me at hour 68, I stopped being 600 meters away. I'm going to find out if that's true right here, standing in the dirt with you. Hendricks stared at him. Senior Chief, he said, that's the hardest thing I've ever seen you do. Yeah, Ryan said. It's just standing Hendricks. No, it isn't, Hendricks said. Inside, Halloran sat down and didn't take his cover off. Emily. Sir, 68 hours. 72, sir. It ran out. You know what I mean. He put his hands on the table. 3 weeks ago, you sat in my office and you told me you'd know at hour 68. I asked you what happens at hour 68. You said, sir, that's when it stops being training. He looked at her. It's hour 82. Where's my page? Emily took it out. She put it on the table. Halloran looked at it for a long moment. It's blank, he said. Yes, sir. Emily, I've got 38 men outside that door who haven't slept, and a mission in 11 days and a page with nothing on it. Yes, sir. Why is it blank? Because I've been sitting in a hallway for 6 hours, sir, Emily said, and I can't decide whether what I saw was the best thing I've ever seen or the most expensive. Halloran leaned back. Tell me what you saw. I saw 38 men throw away 3 days in a career-defining evaluation to get to a man who was already finished, Emily said. In the dark, at a sprint, past the objective. Nobody turned his head. That's the best thing you've ever seen. Yes, sir. Then write yes. Sir, they didn't do it because they'd learned it, Emily said. Halloran stopped. Say that again. They did it because I was standing there, Emily said, and something came into her voice for the first time. Sir, I've been on that field 6 days. 6 days, and Ryan Mitchell is standing in his own formation like a boot, and Hendricks is asking to lose, and Dunn told 40 men he's deaf, and Brooks spoke on the net for the first time in 3 years. 6 days. She looked up. That's not learning, sir. That's a spell. And in 11 days, they get on a plane, and I'm the only thing holding it together. And if I'm wrong about that, 38 men find out at 2 in the morning in a stairwell with the lights out. Halloran was quiet a long time. So go with them, he said. Sir, I told him I would. Halloran's eyebrows went up. You told Mitchell. 2 days ago, sir. Emily. Halloran's voice changed. You told a senior chief you were going out on a compartmented op with his unit. Yes, sir. You don't have the authority to tell him that. No, sir, Emily said. You do. The hut was silent. You've been playing me, Halloran said slowly, since the day I signed that order. Sir, I've been asking you, Emily said. I've been asking you for 3 weeks, and you've said no 3 times, and now you've got a blank page and 11 days and 38 men and 1 Marine who won't sign it. Halloran laughed. It was an old, tired, genuinely amused sound. Tom's daughter, he read. Sir. Tom did this to me in '94, Halloran said. Exact same thing, sat right there. Wouldn't sign a range certification for 9 days until I gave him what he wanted. Did you give it to him? No, Emily's face didn't move. Then 9 days later, he signed it anyway, Halloran said. And 200 men went through that range, and 4 of them came back wrong, and Tom Carter never once said, I told you so. Not one time, Emily, not in 22 years. He looked at the blank page. He just kept rewriting the first paragraph. Emily Carter sat very still. Sir, she said. You want to know why I sent you, Halloran said. That's the question you've never asked me. 3 weeks and you never asked. Sir, I assumed. You assumed I needed a combat instructor. Halloran shook his head. Emily, I've got 40 combat instructors. I sent you because 11 letters is a lot of letters, and Ryan Mitchell is the finest operator I have ever put on an airplane, and I have watched that man run at 600 meters for 19 years, and I could not think of one single person on this earth who could stop him. He tapped the table. Except a woman who watched her father do it. Emily didn't move. Sir, sign the page, Captain. Sir, before I do, her voice had gone thin. I need to ask you something, and I need the true answer, not the kind one, but ask. My father, Emily said. The story is hesitation, half a second. That's the story everybody heard for 11 years, and it's the story on the wall in Coronado, and it's the story I've been carrying since I was 18. She looked up. Sir, you were there. Halloran's face did something. Emily, you were there, sir. I found the manifest 4 years ago. You were on that manifest, and you have never once said a word to me about it, and I have never once asked, and I'm asking now. Halloran sat there for a long moment. There was no hesitation, he said. Emily Carter stopped breathing. Sir, there was no hesitation, Halloran said again. Emily, your father didn't hesitate, not for half a second, not for a quarter of one. Your father saw it, and he moved before anybody else in that building had processed that anything was happening, and he moved toward it, and that's why he was standing where he was standing when it went. Then why? Because he was 600 meters from the objective, Halloran said, and he turned his head. The room was completely silent. There was a kid, Halloran said. 22, nobody, a radio man. He was down and he was calling, and he was 600 meters behind the thing we'd spent 4 months getting to, and every man on that op did the arithmetic, and the arithmetic said keep going. He looked at his hands. Tom turned around. Emily's hands were flat on the table and they were not steady. And the report said hesitation, she said. The report said hesitation because the report was written by a man who needed it to say hesitation, Halloran said. Because if it says what actually happened, then it says a master gunnery sergeant chose a radio man over an objective that 400 people had bled for, and it says the objective was lost, and it says the man who wrote the report signed off on going anyway. His jaw was tight. Hesitation is a mistake, Emily. Mistakes are survivable. What Tom did wasn't a mistake, and that's exactly why it couldn't go in the file. Emily Carter sat there for 11 seconds and said nothing. The radio man, she said finally, lived, Halloran said. 61 now, 3 kids. Does he know he knows? Sir, does he know what the file says? Emily, Halloran said gently, he's the one who told me. He's been trying to get that report amended for 22 years. He calls me every March. Emily Carter put her hand over her mouth. 11 years, she said, and her voice came apart. 11 years, sir. I have built my entire life on half a second. Everything I know, everything I teach, every man I ever put on a mat, I put him there because my father hesitated and I decided nobody else's father was ever going to. She was crying and she didn't stop talking and she didn't wipe her face. And he didn't. He didn't hesitate. He turned around. Yes, I've had it backward for 11 years. No, Halloran said. Emily looked up. No, Halloran said again. Emily, listen to me. You didn't have it backward. You had it right, and you didn't know why. And that is a stranger and more terrible thing than being wrong. He leaned forward. What did you make 38 men do at hour 68? Emily couldn't answer. Say it. I made them turn around, she said. You made them turn around, Halloran said. You've been teaching your father's actual lesson for 11 years while believing you were teaching the opposite of Ed. Emily, that's not a mistake. That's the only inheritance that ever mattered, and it came through you anyway in the dark, without a file, without a name, without one single person telling you the truth. Emily Carter sat in a hut at 0815 and cried in front of a 2-star admiral, and the 2-star admiral did not look away and did not say anything and let her. At 0840, she picked up the pen. Sir, she said, one condition. Name it. Ryan Mitchell has written 11 letters, Emily said. He rewrites the first paragraph 9 times. I know. Sir, my father rewrote 9 times too, and I want to know if he ever knew why, because I don't think he did, and I think Ryan doesn't either, and I think if somebody had told either one of them, Emily. Sir, tell him, Halloran said. That's not a condition. That's just a thing you can do. She signed the page. At 0850, the door opened. 38 men came to attention without a word. Halloran walked out first and looked at them 3 days filthy. None of them slept, and he stopped in front of Ryan Mitchell. Senior Chief? Admiral, you broke contact 600 meters from an objective. Yes, sir. You lost a 72-hour evaluation with an entire unit on the line. Yes, sir. Wait. Ryan Mitchell stood there in front of a 2-star and 37 men. Because there was a man on the ground, sir, he said. Halloran nodded once. You deploy in 11 days, he said, and he kept walking, and he got in his car, and he left. Nobody moved. Nobody made a sound. And then Hendricks said, Senior Chief, in a voice like a man coming up out of water, and 38 men lost it all at once. And it wasn't a cheer, it was something rawer than that. And Ryan Mitchell stood in the middle of it with his eyes closed. Emily let it run for 40 seconds. Then she said, Formation. And it stopped like a switch. Two things, she said. First, Captain Carter deploys with this unit in 11 days. Silence. Then Vasquez said, Ma'am, you're a Marine. And half the formation laughed, and it broke something loose, and Emily let that run too. Second, she said. The laughing stopped. Petty Officer Reyes came out of surgery at 0710, Emily said. He's going to walk. He's not going to operate. Not this unit, not any unit, not ever again. Nobody said anything. He's awake, Emily said. He's asking for you. All of you. And I want to be very clear about something before you go in there, because this is the last thing I'm ever going to teach you, and it's the only one that's hard. She looked at them. You are going to want to tell him he did good. Don't. You're going to want to tell him it was worth it. Don't. You're going to want to make him feel better, and every single instinct you have is going to be to fix it, and you cannot fix it. And if you try, he will know you're lying, and he will spend the rest of his life alone with it. Hendricks's voice was thick. Then what do we say, ma'am? You say thank you, Emily said. That's all. That's the whole thing. He walked 8 kilometers on a dead leg, and he did it so you'd have something worth learning, and you say thank you like a grown man, and then you sit down and you stay. Her voice went hard. 11 days. You've got 11 days, and then you're gone for 6 months, and he's here. So sit down and stay. That's the assignment. Nobody leaves that room in under an hour. At 0930, 38 men filed into a hospital room, and it took 11 minutes for all of them to get in, and none of them left for 4 hours. At 1400, Ryan Mitchell found Emily outside again. He asked about you, he said. What did he say? He said, tell the captain I'd do it again. Emily closed her eyes. He said it twice, Ryan said. Made me promise I'd say it twice. They stood there. Captain, Ryan said. The letters. Senior Chief. 9 times, Ryan said. I want to know why 9. 9. You said your father did 9. I do 9. Kowalski told me this morning that when he writes something hard, he does it twice and stops, and I sat there and I thought twice, and I couldn't understand it. He looked at her. Why 9, Captain? Emily was quiet a moment. Because on the 10th one, you'd have to send it, she said. Ryan Mitchell stood very still. Senior Chief, the first paragraph is where you say what happened, Emily said. That's the whole letter. Everything after it is just words. And as long as you're still writing the first paragraph, it hasn't happened yet. It's still in the room with you. He's still, her voice caught one time and she pushed through it. He's still 600 meters away and he's still walking and you haven't sent it yet. Ryan didn't move. That's not perfectionism, Emily said. Nobody's ever told you that. 9 drafts isn't you trying to get it right, Senior Chief. It's you keeping him in the room. It's the last 4 hours you get. Ryan Mitchell put his hand over his eyes. 19 years, he said, and his voice was gone. Yeah, 19 years, Captain, and I thought I was bad at writing. I know. 11 times I sat at that table until 3 in the morning, and I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought I couldn't do the one thing a leader's supposed to be able to do, which is say it plain. He took his hand down and his face was wet, and he did not care standing in a hospital corridor at 1400 hours. Captain, my wife used to come out at 2 in the morning and find me, and I'd tell her I couldn't find the words. You found them the first time, Emily said. Every time. Senior Chief, the first draft is always the true one. That's why you throw it away. Ryan Mitchell laughed and it broke in the middle. Your father, he said. Did he ever? No, Emily said. Nobody ever told him. He died at that table with a legal pad and 8 drafts in the trash, and I read them when I was 11 years old, and I didn't understand one word of it, and I understood all of it. They stood there a while. Captain, Ryan said finally. 12. Senior Chief. There's never going to be a letter 12, Ryan said. Not on this one, not in 11 days. I'm telling you that out loud in this hallway, and I know exactly how stupid that is, and I don't care. Emily looked at him. Senior Chief, she said, that's the first thing you've said all week that I'd let you say in front of the men. Why? Because it's not a promise, Emily said. It's the first paragraph. And Ryan Mitchell stood in a hospital hallway with 11 letters behind him and 11 days in front of him. And for the first time in 19 years, he was not 600 meters from anything at all. 11 days went fast, and then they were gone. And on the last night, Ryan Mitchell sat at a table with a legal pad and did not write anything at all. Emily found him there at 2300. Senior Chief? Captain, that's a blank page. Yeah, you're not writing. No, he put the pen down. I sat down out of habit. 19 years night before I sit at a table with a pad. I never knew what I was doing. I thought I was thinking. He looked at it. Captain, I've been writing them early. All of them. That's what this is. That's what it's always been. I sit down the night before and I write the first paragraph for a man who isn't dead yet, just in case, so I've got a head start. Emily didn't say anything. 11 letters, Ryan said. And every single one of them, Captain, I had the first paragraph already. Before the plane took off, I've been carrying a paragraph in my pocket for 19 years about a man who was still eating breakfast. Senior Chief, don't be kind about it. I'm not going to be, Emily said. Ryan, that's the most frightened thing I've ever heard a man say. He looked up. It was the first time she'd used his name. Yeah, he said. Do you want to know what my father did the night before? Tell me. He made a pot of coffee and sat at the same table, and he didn't write a word, Emily said. And I asked him once, I was maybe 14. I asked him what he was doing, and he said, I'm not doing anything, sweetheart. That's the whole point. She pulled out a chair. I didn't understand it for 20 years. What did he mean? He meant if you write it early, you've already decided, Emily said. Ryan, if the paragraph's in your pocket when you get on that plane, then somewhere in you, you've already agreed to it. You've made room, and a man who's made room for it will find it. Ryan Mitchell tore the blank page off the pad slowly and folded it and put it in his pocket. Then I'll carry the empty one, he said. At 0340, 38 men and 1 Marine got on an airplane. Kowalski sat down next to Brooks, and neither of them said anything for 2 hours. And then Kowalski said, Olivia, don't get weird, Kowalski. I'm not getting weird. I'm using your name because I've got 6 months to make up for 2 years, and I'd like to start. Brooks looked out the window. You're getting weird, she said. But she was almost smiling, and Kowalski had never once seen that, and he'd been sitting 8 feet from her for 2 years. At hour 9, Hendricks came down the aisle and crouched next to Emily. Ma'am, can I ask you something dumb? Those are the good ones. Reyes. Yeah. He gave me his knife, Hendricks said. Day we left. He's in a chair, ma'am. He's got a rod in his leg, and he handed me his knife and said, hold this. Hendricks's voice was rough. Ma'am, I've had a knife for 11 years. I didn't need his knife. Hendricks, what did he say when he gave it to you? He said, bring it back. Emily nodded slowly. That's not a knife, she said. Hendricks sat down on the deck. No, ma'am, he said. I figured that out about an hour in. Say it out loud anyway. Hendricks looked at his hands. It's a reason to come back, he said. It's a reason to come back, Emily said. So Hendricks, that man, is in a chair in California, and he found the one thing he could still do for you, and he did it, and it took him about 4 seconds to think of it. 4 seconds. And he's the one everybody spent 18 months calling furniture. Hendricks put his head against the bulkhead. Ma'am, I keep thinking about the mat, he said. Which part? You said 5 men would beat you 10 times out of 10, but you'd always know where Reyes is. He shook his head. Ma'am, I thought that was a lesson about looking around. I've been thinking about it for 11 days. It's not about looking around at all, is it? No. It's about who's worth looking for. Emily was quiet for a second. Hendricks, she said 11 days ago, you told me physics doesn't care what I know. Yes, ma'am. You were right then too, Emily said. That's the part nobody tells you. Both things are true the whole time. Physics doesn't care, and you go anyway. At hour 22, they were on the ground, and at hour 31, it went bad. It went bad. The way it always goes bad, which is not dramatically. A door was in the wrong place. That was all. A door was in the wrong place, and the building was one floor taller than 4 months of photographs said it was, and 38 men were inside it before anybody understood. And then the lights went out, and the radios went to static, and it stopped being a mission and started being a stairwell. Ryan Mitchell keyed a dead radio 3 times before he accepted it was dead. "Comms are gone," he said. "Everybody hold." Nobody could hear him. That was the thing. He said it out loud in the dark to a stairwell full of men who could not hear a word he said, and Senior Chief Ryan Mitchell stood there for 1 full second with 19 years in his hands and absolutely nothing to do with them. And then somebody grabbed his sleeve. "Senior Chief, done. Senior Chief, it's done. Comms are gone. I've got nothing but Senior Chief." "Dunn, you can't hear me." "No, Senior Chief," Dunn said. "I can't hear anything. I haven't been able to hear anything for 2 years. His hand tightened on Ryan's sleeve. "Senior Chief, this is Tuesday for me." Ryan Mitchell stopped breathing. "Everybody up here just went deaf," Dunn said. "Senior Chief, they're all going to panic in about 4 seconds because they've never done it. I do it every single day. Let me work." Ryan Mitchell, 19 years, 4 deployments, 11 letters, said the hardest word he had ever said in his life. "Go," he said, and Dunn went. He went up that stairwell in the dark on his hands, and he found every man in it by touch, and he put a hand on each one of them, and he moved them the way he'd been moving through the world for 2 years, by feet, by shoulders, by the shape of a man's weight, when he's about to make a mistake. And Petty Officer Dunn, who had faked a hearing exam and hated himself for it every day for 2 years, ran a 38-man element through 4 minutes of total darkness and total silence, and did not lose one single man. At 4 minutes and 10 seconds, the lights came back. Dunn was sitting on the landing with his back against the wall, and 37 men were looking at him. "What?" he said. Nobody answered. "What?" "Dunn," Vasquez said, and his voice wasn't working right. "Dunn, I moved some guys." "You moved some guys," Hendricks said. "It's not a thing," Dunn said. "You people make it a thing. It's not a thing, it's just you get used to it. You get used to not hearing. You learn where everybody is because you have to." He looked around at their faces, and something in him started to come apart. Don't do that. Don't look at me like that." "Dunn," Ryan Mitchell said. "Senior Chief, I'm broken. I'm not." "Petty Officer Dunn," Ryan said. "Thank you." Dunn's mouth closed. He sat there on that landing, and he looked at his Senior Chief, and he said, "That's it. That's all you're going to say." "That's all," Ryan said. "That's the whole thing." And Dunn put his face in his hands, and 37 men sat down in a stairwell in the middle of the worst night of their lives and stayed because that was the assignment, and they'd been given it 11 days ago in a hospital corridor by a Marine. At hour 34, they found the extra floor, and on it, they found the reason the photographs were wrong. Vasquez came off the ladder white as paper. "Senior Chief, there's people up there." "Say again." "There's people, Senior Chief. Not Senior Chief, it's not what we came for. It's not the objective. There's 20-something people up there, and they're not shooters, and half of them are under 16, and they've been up there, Senior Chief. I don't know how long they've been up there." Nobody spoke. Ryan Mitchell said, "Where's the objective?" Vasquez swallowed. "2 floors down and about 600 meters east, Senior Chief," he said. And 38 men standing in a building in the dark on the other side of the world heard the number, and every single one of them turned and looked at Ryan Mitchell. "Say the number again, Vasquez," Ryan said. "Senior Chief, say the number." 600 meters, Vasquez said. Ryan Mitchell started to laugh. It was the worst sound anybody there had ever heard. It went on about 2 seconds, and he stopped it with his hand over his mouth. "Captain," he said. Emily stepped forward. "Senior Chief, did you do this?" "No." "Captain, if you did this—" "Ryan," Emily said, "I couldn't do this. Nobody could do this. This is just what it is. It's always 600 meters. That's the whole thing I've been trying to tell you for 11 days. It's not a training scenario. It's not a lesson. It's every single time for the rest of your life. And it is always going to be 600 meters, and it is always going to be the exact worst possible moment. And there is never once going to be an admiral standing there to tell you afterward that you got it right." Ryan Mitchell stood there. "Senior Chief," Hendricks said. "Orders." "Senior Chief," Vasquez said. "The clock, Senior Chief, we've got maybe 19 minutes on the window, and if we don't move now—" Senior Chief, somebody in the back said 4 months. 4 months on this. Ryan Mitchell closed his eyes. And in the dark behind them, he saw a legal pad and 8 drafts in a trash can, and a man he'd never met sitting at a kitchen table at 3 in the morning, rewriting the first paragraph 9 times because on the 10th one he'd have to send it. He opened his eyes. Brooks, he said. Every head turned. Senior Chief. You're going to be wrong in front of me, Ryan said. That's still an order. Go. Sergeant Olivia Brooks stood in a building at hour 34 with 37 men looking at her, and she did not count, and she did not check, and she did not make sure she had the answer first. We go up, she said. Why? Because the objective's been there 4 months, and it'll be there in the morning, Brooks said, and those kids won't. Silence. That's it, Hendricks said. Brooks, that's the whole reason. Yeah, Brooks said. That's the whole reason. It's not a good one. I don't have a better one. I'm probably wrong. And Ryan Mitchell said, we go up. They went up. They got 23 people off that floor in 11 minutes, and the window closed, and the objective did not get taken, and 4 months of work went into a hole in the ground. And at hour 36, 38 men and 1 Marine walked out of a building carrying children, and not one of them said a word about it the whole way home. At hour 41 on the flight back, Vasquez sat down across from Emily. Ma'am, Vasquez, we failed, he said. Yes. Ma'am, that's going to be in a report. Yes. Somebody in an office is going to read that report, and it's going to say the objective was not achieved, Vasquez said. And it's not going to say why. It's never going to say why. 20 years from now, that's what the file's going to say, and there won't be a word in it about the 4th floor. Emily looked at him for a long moment. Vasquez, she said, you just described my father's life. Vasquez went quiet. Ma'am, that's exactly what the file says about him, Emily said. Hesitation, 1 word. It's on a wall in Coronado. 22 years. Her voice was perfectly steady. And he never once said, I told you so, and he never once asked anybody to fix it, and he died at a kitchen table with the truth in the trash can, and I spent 11 years believing the file. Ma'am, Vasquez stopped. Ma'am, that's the worst thing I've ever heard. No, it isn't, Emily said. Vasquez, listen to me. There's a man who's 61 years old with 3 kids because my father turned around. He calls an admiral every March. He's been trying to get a report amended for 22 years, and he's never going to, and he calls anyway. She leaned forward. The file's going to say what the file says. It always has. But there are 23 people who got off that floor tonight, and every one of them is going to be alive in the morning, and that is not in the file either. And I need you to understand right now tonight at hour 41 that only one of those 2 things is real. Vasquez sat there. Ma'am, he said, that's a hard way to live. Yes, Emily said, it's the only one that works. At hour 52, they landed and Reyes was on the tarmac in a chair. Nobody had told him. Somebody had told him. Nobody ever admitted to it. Hendricks came off that plane and walked straight to him and didn't say anything and put the knife in his hand. Reyes looked at it. You brought it back, he said. Yeah. Hendricks, don't. Hendricks, I'm going to say it. Reyes, don't. Thank you, Reyes said. And Hendricks, 6'4", 240, 11 years, a face like a shovel, went down on one knee in front of a man in a wheelchair on a runway in California and put his forehead on the arm of the chair and did not get up for a while. And 37 men stood there and did not look away and did not say one single word. Emily Carter watched it from the ramp, and Ryan Mitchell came and stood next to her. Captain, Senior Chief, there's no letter 12, he said. No, 38 men. 38 men. And we lost, Ryan said. Yes. Ryan Mitchell looked out at the tarmac. Captain, I've never been this happy about anything in my whole life, he said, and I don't know what to do with my hands. Emily laughed. It surprised her. Nobody ever does, she said. Reyes never operated again. He became the schoolhouse. Nobody planned it. It just happened the way things happen when a man has something and nowhere to put it. Ryan Mitchell walked into Halloran's office 6 weeks later and asked for a billet that did not exist, and Halloran created it in about 9 minutes. What do I call it? Halloran said. Sir, I don't care what you call it. Mitchell, it has to have a name. The Navy can't pay a man without a name for it. Ryan thought about it. Call it the Guy who knows where everybody is, he said. Halloran wrote something down. I'm going to call it instructor, he said. That's fine too, sir. Dunn got his hearing written down. All of it. 60% right ear on paper in the file forever. It should have ended him. It didn't. Emily Carter walked it up herself and stood in front of a board of 4 officers and said one sentence that they talked about at that command for the next 15 years. Gentlemen, she said, this man ran 38 operators through 4 minutes of total darkness because he'd been living in it for 2 years, and if you make him hide that, then the next man hides it too, and the next one, and eventually one of them hides it on a night when nobody's done. They kept him. Brooks made chief in 19 months. She was late to a formation the week before the board. 6 minutes. First time in 4 years. She walked up in front of Ryan Mitchell with her whole face gone white and started to say it, and he cut her off. Brooks. Senior Chief, I have no excuse. Brooks, you're 6 minutes late. Yes, Senior Chief. Congratulations, Ryan said. Brooks stood there. Senior Chief. 4 years, Ryan said. 4 years, and you've never been late once, and I have never in my life been so worried about a sailor. He looked at her. You're late. You're going to be late again, and nobody's going to write it on a wall. Fall in. She fell in. Later, when they gave her the anchors, she got asked to say a few words, and she said 7. I got here because somebody let me be wrong, and she sat down. Kowalski learned everybody's name. All of them. He made it a thing. He was insufferable about it, and men made fun of him for it for 9 years, right up until a night in a place nobody talks about, when a very young sailor went down in the dark, and Kowalski said his name out loud, his actual first name, and the kid answered, and that was the only reason anybody found him. Nobody made fun of it after that. Emily Carter went back to Pendleton and did it again and again and again. Different units, different men, same field. And 11 years later, she was standing on it when a young Marine asked her the question. There were 40 of them. Some looked confident, some looked skeptical. There's always both, and there's never anybody else. Captain Carterton, he said, ma'am, permission to ask something. You don't have to ask me that, ever. That's a rule. The kid blinked at that. Ma'am, what can you teach us that combat hasn't already taught us? And Emily Carter smiled because she had been waiting for that question for 11 years, and because it was the same question, and it was always going to be the same question, and it was asked by a kid who did not know that a man had once torn a roster in half on that exact patch of ground. What's your name? She said. Kowalski, ma'am. Emily stopped. The whole field waited. Kowalski, she said. Yes, ma'am. Is something wrong? No, Emily said. No, nothing's wrong. She was quiet for a second. I knew a Kowalski once. Was he any good, ma'am? He was the best man I ever met, Emily said, and I didn't know it for 6 days, and neither did he. The kid didn't know what to do with that. Ma'am, my question. I'm going to answer it, Emily said, but I'm going to answer a different one first, because 11 years ago, a man named Kowalski asked me what I'd done, and I told him no, and I told him to ask me again at the end. She looked at 40 faces. Nobody ever asked. 11 years. Nobody ever asked me again. Silence. My father was Master Gunnery Sergeant Thomas Carter, she said. Something moved through that formation like a current. Ma'am, somebody said, there's a building. There's a building where Emily agreed. And on the wall in that building, there's a word. And the word is hesitation. And I want every one of you to go read it today before dinner. Go stand in front of it and read it. Her voice didn't shake. And then I want you to know that it's a lie. He didn't hesitate. He was 600 meters from the thing 400 men bled for, and there was a 22-year-old radio man down behind him, and Master Gunnery Sergeant Thomas Carter turned around. Nobody moved. He's 61 now, Emily said. The radio man, he's got 3 kids. He called me last March. He calls every March. He's been trying to get that word off the wall for 22 years, and he's never going to get it off. And he calls anyway, and that's the man my father made. The wind came off the Pacific, and 40 Marines stood in it. So here's your answer, Kowalski, Emily said. She let it sit. Combat teaches you how to survive, she said. It's very good at it. It'll teach you faster than I can, and it'll never once be wrong. Combat will teach you exactly where the objective is, and exactly how many seconds you have, and exactly what it costs. and the arithmetic will always be right. She looked at them. And the arithmetic will always say, keep going. 40 men waited. I can't teach you to survive. You'll learn that without me. Emily Carter's voice went low and hard and absolutely certain. What I can teach you is the 600 meters. That's all I've got. That's the whole thing. Every one of you is going to be 600 meters from the most important thing in your life one day in the dark with the clock running, and somebody behind you is going to be down and calling, and the math is going to tell you to go. She stopped. Turn around, she said. Nobody breathed. That's it. That's everything I know. That's 11 years and a father and a roster somebody tore in half on this exact ground and every single man I have ever put on a mat. Turn around. It will cost you the objective. It will cost you the file. It will cost you the word they carve on the wall, and they will carve the wrong one, and you will not get to fix it. Her eyes went across them one at a time. And you turn around anyway, because the objective is what the mission is made of. The man behind you is what you're made of. And gentlemen, one of those things comes home. The training ground went silent. Not the way it had gone silent 11 years ago when 40 men were waiting for a woman to fail. The other way. The way a room goes silent when nobody in it wants to be the one who makes the first sound. Fall out, Emily said. Go read the wall. They went. And Captain Emily Carter stood alone on the field where a man had once torn her orders in half, and she took 2 pieces of paper out of her breast pocket the way she had every single day for 11 years. And she matched the torn edges together, and she held them, and she thought about a kitchen table and a legal pad and 8 drafts in a trash can. There is a lie carved on a wall in Coronado, and it will be there long after everyone who could correct it is gone, and it does not matter. Because Thomas Carter turned around and his daughter turned around, and 38 men in a stairwell on the other side of the world turned around, and 23 people woke up the next morning. And Reyes has a knife on his desk that came back, and Dunn's hearing is written down in a file where it can never hurt anybody again. And Brooks was 6 minutes late and made chief anyway, and there was never a letter 12. The greatest warriors are not the ones who never fall. They are the ones who turn around.